Hi, I'm Matt Little. I'm the Director of Counseling and Education, Empowering Awareness.Asia, and I'm a proud sponsor of this podcast.
Excellent, excellent.
Firstly, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to interview you for my podcast.
It's my pleasure, and I hope your audience appreciates our conversation we're going to have over the next period of time here.
So I've gone through your profile. I can see you have done a lot of work in your career, and I can see you're doing great work right now. So I thought to tell about your work to my audience. So can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
Absolutely, yes. I'm going to give you a little bit of history because it goes back many, many years, many, many years. Um, During my education period, my first university degree was in a field called biomedical engineering, which was very, very new at that particular time. And what biomedical engineering was the field of trying to understand human trauma, human injuries through analogies, uh, electrical analogies, mechanical analogies. And what most people remember when I talk about this is when you see car crash simulations, they use an anthropomorphic dummy. In other words, some kind of a surrogate that has instruments on it because you can't put people into cars and crash them into walls. That's not a good idea. So they use other things. And so biomedical engineering was a degree that I was pursuing. And very quickly I realized that a lot of what was going on that I needed to do was not only engineering, but building computer systems to use to understand what needs to be done. So all of a sudden, as I'm going through my biology and chemistry and medical side of that particular field and the engineering, I quickly realized that the next thing I had to get familiar with was computers and specifically computer programming. And what surprised me was the lack of sophistication, the lack of discipline, the lack of methodology, the lack of frameworks in the software development field. And as I always joke with people, in my engineering program, what we learned from day one in engineering is you plan something, you analyze something, you design something, and then you implement it. Plan, analyze, design, construct. That was the discipline that was instilled in us as engineers. I went into the software development, and as I always joke with people, but it's not funny. It's construct, maintain, 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 construct, maintain, maintain, maintain. And to this day, as you and I speak, the reason for the cyber attacks, all of the ransomware, and everything else is due to a fundamental lack of discipline, of a methodology that says architect, analyze, design, assemble solutions. So early on in my career, which had nothing to do essentially with IT in the beginning, I started thinking about, well, this is not a good thing. And very quickly, when I first started working in the field, I sort of migrated to looking not anymore at biomedical engineering or engineering specifically, but software development. And so in the late 70s, early 80s, long time ago, some people say, but not very long as far as history goes, I started getting involved in what is now referred to as architecture, parentheses, enterprise architecture or business architecture. The problem is most people don't recognize that enterprise architecture is not about building IT systems. Enterprise architecture is about understanding what to build, not how to build it, which is a very different thing. I learned that, once again, from my discipline in engineering, which was there's engineering understanding and then there's manufacturing understanding. They're two very related disciplines, but they're very different. In our profession, unfortunately, of technology, even that isn't there. So I want to mention to your audience and everyone else here, I'm not a person that is unhappy with what's going on. What we're trying to do is to get people to recognize that we have a lot of growing to do to become a profession. Because right now, we are not. We are not. And the easiest way to recognize that is the continuing increase in cyber attacks, in ransomware, and if you want a better example, please look at your own cell phone and see how many updates you get to the programs, the applications that are on your cell phone. Every day there's another bug fix. There's another update. And that's because the programs are a problem. Now, a couple of phrases and then I'll stop here and have you ask a few questions. The industry likes to hide these things. And what they do is they use words to try to hide what's going on. So the first word that people talk about is software bugs. Software bugs. You know what a better word would be? Software mistakes. Notice how much more powerful that is. These programs have mistakes in them. That is a more powerful world to get people's attention. Now, my last point, artificial intelligence. People have heard the phrase artificial intelligence hallucinates. That word is masking the truth. Artificial intelligence is fabricating, lying. Notice how much more powerful it is, and it gets people to react. In other words, let's do something about the lying that's going on, the fabrication that's going on, the mistakes that are going on. And that's what I'm trying to do with our organization and our clients, is to get them to recognize it's not a complaint. It's a recognition of where we are in our maturing, and then we have to do something about it. So that's what we're about, is we're bringing methodologies, techniques, tools, frameworks to the world of enterprise architecture and business architecture. I hope that helps in my introduction.
Yes. So you have started understanding biology and chemistry and wanted to understand engineering, and then you have uh, started understanding technology and IT and software. Today, uh, you are into enterprise architecture, so trying to understand how enterprises needs a particular architecture for their organizations. So you're building solutions for it, and you're giving solutions for them. So how is it, and how you're enjoying it?
Well, that is absolutely correct. And am I enjoying it? The answer is, people ask me, well, when are you going to retire? And here's what I'm telling people. People are starting to pay attention. It is marvelous, my friend. It is marvelous. We are so happy to see when we go into an organization and they see the power of real enterprise architecture. And I want to stress this again. It is not IT planning. This is what a lot of people make mistakes on, is they think it's about information systems. It is not. It is about understanding the business. The most powerful example I can give your audience is that an enterprise or business architect, the phrase that's used by some of our clients is, it's the enabler of business strategy. The enabler of business strategy. And as a bit of a promotion here, I say that up front, my latest book on business architecture is titled Business Architecture, the Enabler of Business Strategy. So we're trying to emphasize that it's not about what to build. That, frankly, is easy. What's difficult to understand is what you need to build. which are the requirements from the stakeholders, from the business people as to what they need. That's where the weakness is in our industry right now, and that's what we're pursuing. And the exciting thing for us, as I said, is after all these years, people are really paying attention because they see all these other things, and frankly, they're not working. The expenses are going up, the results are going down, the frustration from the business people is growing. The frustration for you and I when we use these applications is growing. I know, my own case. I sit down and try to do something. I said, who designed this thing? So it's really, really fun. And that's what keeps us going.
So, in your vast experience understanding enterprises and designing architecture for it, so how is it and how different it is, and can you tell me what are your experiences
Okay.
observing different organizations, architectures and designs?
Yeah. There are three things that words that we use that we believe the industry needs, and they get them mixed up: training, education, and demonstrating. Training, education, and demonstrating. Those three words gets mixed up. The only way that you and I, as technology people, can get an understanding to our stakeholders is not by lecturing them, but by demonstrating. We have to demonstrate what is different about real enterprise architecture. We have to show them something, not educate or train. I'll get to those two words in a moment. We have to show them. Let us show you what we can do with this in the real world. So we walk into an organization, we look at what they're doing, and we show them, we demonstrate. It's not version 1.0 of enterprise architecture yet. It's demonstrating the power of this. Then we have the other two words: educate and train. Education is what we call demystification. In other words, let us explain to you what the process is. The third word, which is training, is for the EA or BA professional. Training is not for the stakeholders. Training is the how-to. How do you do this? So we look at this, that our job is three pieces actually: demonstrating, educating, and training. And that whole situation is what we bring to an organization. Now, when we go to an organization, we have to sort of find out where their understanding is. And unfortunately for you and I and the rest of the community, another issue we have to deal with is the internet. I know that sounds funny, but the internet, what people have to recognize is the internet does not have best practices, ever. Think about that phrase, best practices. Would anyone in an organization take their best practices and put them on the internet for everybody else to use? Well, of course not. So the internet has published practices. Now, within that, we have to recognize that anybody can write anything about anything, which is a problem. So we have to sometimes undo things a little bit. Now, what I also want your audience to recognize is the same thing is true for artificial intelligence. Once again, people are being misled or fooled. So if we look at it for a moment, there are four types of information that you and I, in any field, can take advantage of. Not just EA, not just BA, but we go out and look at things. The first is what you and I just discussed, the general internet. Anybody can write anything about anything, and you frankly don't know if it's correct or incorrect. And of course, we know that the search engines out there are really not search engines. They're based on popularity. Now, the second set of information out there is where the industry right now is really dealing with, and that's what we call intellectual property theft. Now, what is that? These AI engines are being trained on copyrighted or trademarked information, which is illegal. It is illegal. It is theft. And what is going on in a lot of organizations and countries right now is that sort of debate between the AI vendors and the intellectual property people, like ourselves, frankly, are looking for. But here's what I want to mention to your audience. There's two more classes of information. The third class of information is what we call an equal exchange of value. Equal exchange of value. Now, what is that? So if one of your audience members goes to our website and wants to see one of our 600 or 700 articles that we have out there, they need to give us their email. Now, if they give us a false email, the article doesn't come to them. If they give us a correct email, the article comes to them. We call that an equal exchange of information. Please recognize that the artificial intelligence engines, these large language models, don't have access to that. And then the fourth one, and the most important to you and everyone else, is best practices. And with all due respect, best practices cost money. And the AI engines, again, don't have access to that. So what we're getting people to recognize is, let's get real here for a moment and sort of see where we are, and once again, bring some method to what we call the madness out there. Once again, exciting, not hard, just getting people, remember those three words: demonstrate, educate, and train. Just getting people to recognize where they are and what is going on in the world, and then moving forward. And that's what keeps it fun.
And you mentioned AI is fabricating information. So can you describe that?
Well, we all know this. We all know this. In other words, the it begins with data. So what we have to recognize is any computer system is made up of four components. It doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin, it doesn't matter if it's blockchain, it doesn't matter if it's artificial intelligence, it doesn't matter if it's a package that you buy for word processing or for anything else, made up of four components. The first component is what we refer to as the procedure division. Processing. This is where the AI chips have really taken off. The speed of processing has been astounding. And that's where all of the focus has been. Speed. The second component within those four is what's called the person-machine interface. And that's the different ways that you can access things, whether it's on a cell phone, whether it's on a voice prompt, and all these other phrases that are going on. The third component of a computer system is the machine-to-machine interface. So how do you get data from one machine, or one computer, one database to another? And the fourth and the most urgent is the data division. And this is where the fabrication is occurring. Because what people are realizing is that it's feeding itself. So you have organizations around the world that are deliberately putting false information out there that trains these engines, that continues to train on bad information and keeps this going. So the bigger, and the more time is, the worse it's getting. Now people say, well, Sam, no. There's people out there that are putting good stuff in there. I understand that. But you don't know what is good and what is bad. So what we've done with our clients is to get them to recognize those four components, and the data component is the one they need to address. So the phrase that we use with our clients is not AI, artificial intelligence. By the way, what's another word for the word artificial? Fake, phony. Interesting, isn't it? Even in the name itself, it's telling you. It's phony information, phony intelligence. I think it's kind of hilarious when you actually look at the words. So what we tell our clients once again is that how do we harness this? That's what we call EAI. EAI. Enterprise Augmented Information. Enterprise Augmented Information. And instead of using the large language models, we actually do the opposite. We use the enterprise data. We cleanse the data within the enterprise and then magnify that. And that's where the people are getting real competitive advantage. Now, we introduced this a number of years ago, and why I'm smiling is the industry, if you want to take a look, is now talking about small language models, which I find funny. I don't like that phrase. I like our phrase a lot better, which is enterprise augmented information, which is really what we're trying to do. Aid you and the stakeholders, in what they're doing. So coming full circle, the way to address the fabrication is to recognize it's fabricating because of the data. It's not the processing, because the processor is just processing anything that comes with it, comes into it. It's the data. And the way to address that is to recognize the data component and do something about it. And that's the solution that's out there waiting for everybody. There's no reason to wait. You don't have to wait anymore, because you can get these engines now and bring them in-house to organizations, and they're available. So the run-up of AI, essentially the point that really accelerated was the processing chip. And that's where the technology has really exploded. But the issue is on the data side. Now, one more understanding here. The gentleman that invented the web, the internet, is a gentleman named Sir Tim Berners-Lee. Sir Tim Berners-Lee invented the web. And in April of 2017, he wrote an article for Wired magazine, and you can look this up. Please remember, the inventor of the internet told us the following: someday people will recognize that the data belongs to me. That's the asset. 2017, he warned us. He said the internet is out of control. 2017, my friend. The person that invented the internet warned us what was happening. And all of us are doing this. But there's a way to address it. So to your question, we address the fabrication by recognizing where fabrication is occurring and ending it.
So what are the solutions that you are proposing through your organization and with your work?
So it begins. The solutions that we're looking at is to recognize, number one, we need to move the discipline of development. And I'm going to just talk about that for a moment. And that is to recognize the four methodology or four components of a quality solution. I didn't say IT solution. I said any solution. You're building a house. You're building an automobile. You're building a computer system. You architect, you analyze, you design, and then assemble solutions. That is the first thing organizations have to recognize. You architect, you analyze, you design, and you assemble solutions. So that's one of the things that we bring to the audience that we have the privilege of working with, in our company. Now, within that, the data component, and people can call it data architecture, but I call it the data approach involves architect, analyze, design, and assemble data structures. So we're using that same methodology in a piece of it in organizations to take advantage of the artificial intelligence, and I want to be careful here, artificial intelligence engines, not artificial intelligence, but the processing engine. So we come to organizations, we build a data architecture, we come up with an analysis of that, we design a data structure, and then it's implemented. And that becomes essentially the cycle. So there's your question had sort of like two components. One of them I skipped, which is the enterprise architecture, business architecture. And the other one is what all organizations need to do today. If they're going to use artificial intelligence in quotes, they've got to get their data straightened out. And it doesn't take very long. It doesn't take very long. But people are always looking for the miracle. Let's just use one of these commercially available models, which I just told you leads to all of these fabrications. So those are the disciplines that we can bring to audiences.
So, at last, what do you say to my audience and the leaders, business owners, or anybody who is watching and listening to this conversation from anywhere on this planet?
I say to them, anytime somebody comes to you with anything, including us, what you need to do is to take a deep breath, and then say the following. HMMM. People need to take a breath for a moment because all of us are being bombarded with miracles. Now, I've been in the industry since 1972. I know I don't look that old. Yes, I do. And I can name you the number of miracles that were going to solve everything since that day. And yet what's happening? More and more frustration. I want to say this again. More and more frustration. Now, I want to also say, it's not that we're not doing good things. We're doing great things. Great things. But the amount of frustration is growing for good reason. And since we are not yet a profession, there's things that we need to do. But we need to start slowly. There's the phrase that's used, I know too many times, is we crawl, we walk, we run. But we have to recognize if we don't start today, it's never going to get better. So we have to stop the madness and start looking at thousands of years of history of how complex things have been built. Architect, analyze, design, assemble. A number of years ago, I had the privilege of working in Egypt for one of the major telecommunications companies outside of Cairo. And when I was in Egypt, I went over to visit to see the Great Pyramids. Because as an engineer, that's something I was very, very interested in. Because think about the complexity, and every day, if you read about what people are finding out about the pyramids, it's amazing. because there was an incredible amount of engineering going on. Now, in one of the pyramids, we were allowed to go into a sort of like a hallway chamber, and the lights were very dim. And on one wall were three drawings on this wall. And the tour guide sort of walked by and said, "Excuse me one second." Excuse me. I said, "What are these drawings?" And he sort of like shrugged his shoulders. He says, "We think they're the blueprints for the pyramid, but notice that there's a fourth one that was sort of blanked out." And I said, "Well, I'd like to take a picture." "Oh, you can't take a picture." I says, "Well, is there like a, in the gift shop, is there posters or?" And he says to me, "Nobody cares about this." So the point I'm making to you and your audience is that the discipline of blueprinting, architecting, is the key to understand complexity. The key to understanding complexity is explicit representations. And what I want to bring to your audience is the recognition is if they don't have an explicit representation of the enterprise, then the only thing that they're going to have is construct, maintain, maintain, maintain. And the time to get started is today. One final point. People tell me, "Well, shouldn't have we done this in the beginning?" The answer is yes. But I want to leave your audience with this sort of like comical thing. If you have a yard, or you have some area in around your home or your apartment, and you like some shade, well, the best time to plant a tree for the shade, okay, is 25 years ago, so it has time to grow. What's the next best time to grow the tree? Today. Begin going forward. I hope this helps. I hope this time we had together brings some understanding to your audience. And of course, I'd love to hear from any of them. It'd be my pleasure to talk to them or email with them and bring some more insight to you and your audience to bring this forward.
So, can you tell your online presence to my podcast listeners who are listening this on audio?
Sure. So the easiest way to get a hold of us is we have two major websites, one on enterprise architecture and one on business architecture. And the names and the URLs are almost the same. www.eaca, excuse me, www.eacoe.org. www.enterprisearchitecturecenterofexcellence.org. Just the initials. The business architecture is www.bacoe.org. www.businessarchitecturecenterofexcellence.org. In both of those websites, there's a little button that says, "Schedule a call with me." And all you have to do is press that button and, find, I'm pretty busy. You'll see where the schedule is, and it'd be my pleasure to talk to anyone.
So, at last, what is your observation about my work? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
Yes, I have. And when you approached me to do this particular session, I said it'd be my pleasure to do it because you put out quality work.
So, I've done masters in software engineering, also bachelors in computer science and engineering. Right now, I'm working as a DevOps engineer for a London company. So that's my full-time role. Apart from that, I'm interviewing experts like you, who are business leaders like you, who are from different parts of the world and who are inspiring the entire planet. So and changing, being the change, the positive change on the planet. So me, doing engineering work and, interviewing experts like you who knows how to solve business problems. So how this experience is going to add value to my career and to my portfolio.
Well, we hope that you bring to your experience and portfolio the disciplines we're talking about. And some of these you already may have. But to bring that understanding through demonstrating these techniques will add value to your personal understanding and your profession and hopefully the people that you deal with. So we hope not only the audience there, but as I say, to myself every day, we learn every day. We never stop learning. If we think about what we stop learning, we're never going to do this. There's always new things to learn. I am someone that is really interested in the space program. And the things that are going on in the space program today are, to me, just astounding. But I want to mention, they all start with architect, analyze, design, assemble solutions. That's what's happening out there. I remember years ago, the industry said that we cannot launch a rocket and reuse it. It's impossible. It's impossible. Well, today, it's everyday experience. Happens all the time now. Please don't say it's impossible. Please say, let's see if we can address this. So it's the difference between having a negative view, no, I can't do it, and saying, well, let me see if we can figure out a way to do it. That's the message I want to bring. We can do it. Got to think about it. And sometimes we have to ignore the people that are saying, we can't. We can't. So to yourself, as a person that is a bit younger than I am, you've got a whole series of, let's see if we can do something that is different and bring additional value. Because that's what we're all trying to do. Bring additional value to things that are out there to help people have better lives. Not only our own, but our others. I hope this helps. And good luck to you as you move forward in your career and possibly move the industry forward a little bit more too.
Definitely, sir. Your words means a lot to me. So can I put this audio on my, this clip on my YouTube channel and podcast with your permission?
Absolutely, and please send us the link so that we can promote it also.
Definitely, sir. Thank you very
All
much
right.
for your presence and for your words and for your experiences and letting me and my audience know what you are doing and how you are making things happen.
Yeah. So thank you, and good luck to you, and do good things in the world. And I know that sounds trite, but we all can do something positive, and this is just one way that we can contribute to that betterment of society. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Bye.
Bye.